basically what it comes down to is we have decided because of all of the games that have been going on, because of the changes in the interpretation of the laws, because of the death of 1,000 cuts of always trying to jump through hoops that we didn't even know existed. It seems evident to us that they really don't want retirees here. And it's not just Americans; it's from any country, anyone who wants to come here and retire.
Mm-hmm.
Because these laws were made 4 years ago now. We're leaving. We're done. As much as we love Colombia and we love the people and we love the naturaleza, we have decided that we're going to relocate to France. So we're moving to France in April.
Can I ask you a quick favor? Adventure Freaks is growing, but over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. If you love tips on affordable living and retiring abroad, hit that subscribe button. It's free and it really helps us grow. All right, so today we are heading down to the beautiful country of Colombia with my good buddy Randy Lagman. Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Good, good. You're looking good, my friend.
Good to
So
see you again, sir.
yeah, so man, we've done more podcasts than anybody else.
Well, Colombia is a popular place. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and how many years have you been there now?
We've been here almost exactly 5 years. It'll be 5 years in a couple of weeks.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so Randy is like our country expert. It's been down there for quite some time, and we've been discussing what's fascinating about living or retiring in Colombia and all of the requirements and cost of living. We've got other videos up on our YouTube channel about that. So check those out as well. But today we're gonna have a discussion because there's been some shifts in Colombia, and it's really important to discuss what those shifts have been for anyone who is still considering living and retiring in Colombia. And Colombia is an amazing place. I love the country. So we're going to talk about what is really incredibly attractive about Colombia and why it's worth moving there. And then we're going to look at some of the things that you need to consider before moving down there. But Randy, let's start by you giving them a little backstory again about who you are, where you're from, how you landed in Colombia.
Okay, sure. Well, my spouse and I we're both Americans. We knew that we were going to be expatriating for years before we actually decided. We had visited a number of countries, and Colombia always was. Well, we had met some friends, and of course, the stigma of Colombia is ever present. We were RVing at the time, and we met somebody RVing, and they said, "Oh, you really must visit my country," and she was Colombiana. And we thought, oh, Colombia, yeah, right. So the Hollywood depiction of Colombia is always pretty negative.
Yeah.
So we came to visit, and we fell in love with the country. It is mostly the people. The people here are amazing. They're warm and welcoming and patient with my what was basic Spanish at the time. Of course, my Spanish has gotten pretty good now, but after 5 years of immersion, you don't have a choice. But the people are amazing. They're so friendly and so helpful and so welcoming, and almost everyone is absolutely charming. You
Yeah.
do run into a few opportunistas, opportunists from
Sure.
time
Yeah.
to time, but that's the way it is in the whole world, right? But the people are amazing. Secondly, the nature here, the naturaleza, is incredible. We live in the Andes Mountains. We're at about a mile up in elevation, and it's the being an equatorial climate. You pick your preferred climate based on elevation. The higher you go, the cooler it is. The lower you live, the warmer it is. But it's the same year round. So we're at about a mile up in the coffee region, and we look out our window and we see palm trees and coffee fields and banana trees and platanos and just endless green. And it's
Mhm.
green and comfortable and warm year round. It never changes. It's 78 to 82 every day and 61 to 65 every night year round.
Wow.
It's
That's
just
like perfect.
It is. It is. For us, that's perfect.
Feeling confused about where to move abroad, which countries you even qualify for, or what your real options are? You're not alone. This is where most people get stuck and where they often waste a lot of time and money going in the wrong direction. That's why we offer 2 simple ways to help, depending on what you need. First is the Ideal Destination Finder. It's a personalized assessment that looks at your lifestyle, priorities, and budget, and then shows you your top 3 countries. It's designed to help you narrow things down, avoid endless research, and reduce the risk of choosing the wrong place. And if you feel like you need more personalized help, you can also book a one-on-one consultation with me. I'll walk you through your situation, clarify which countries make sense for you, which countries you can actually qualify for, and the next steps, so you're not guessing. Both options are easy to find at adventurefreaks.com. Just scroll down and you'll see the consultation with me to the right. Just click it and schedule your consultation. Over here to the left, you'll see the Ideal Destination Finder. Just click it to get started. Links are also in the description below, or you can scan the QR codes on the screen. Now let's get back to the video.
Some people like it hotter, some cooler. You can find whatever you want by picking your elevation.
Mm-hmm.
But, we look out our window off our balcony. We have beverages every night at sunset, and we see 3, 4, 5, sometimes 7 mountain ranges going off in the distance. It's just idyllic,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that we and just to set a context, because everyone has sort of their own sweet spot in terms of where they live. My spouse and I have always preferred small towns or rural living.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't live in a big town. In fact, we live just outside of a small town of about 12,000 people. So I would call this rural living.
Yes.
And there's some really good things that come with that, and there are some challenges, of course. But one of the challenges is that if you want to be in a small town or a rural area, you absolutely must speak Spanish.
Yes.
There's, we live near a town called Palestina, Caldas, and we are known locally as Los Gringos de Palestina. I mean, we're it. So there's just nobody else to speak English with here. So you have to function in Spanish,
mm-hmm.
which is, good and bad. I mean, it's good because it forces you to learn, and it's bad in the sense that, if you have, every time you get into a new project, like working on a car or plumbing or electrical or, yard work or whatever, the vocabulary, you have to learn new vocabulary every new project, it's fun. But I love learning languages. So yeah. I speak 3 languages now, and I hope to learn more. But so let's see, what else is good? Like I said, the people, the nature, the mountains are fabulous. We love the mountains.
What comes to mind for me? The affordability, the food. Like you said, the people are amazing in Colombia.
Yeah.
The affordability is incredible, because we've covered, you've always lived in what you call, fincas, or they're like a farm, or you live in these larger homes.
Right.
Did you still get really good deals on these larger homes? And are they still really affordable?
We did the one video where I did a tour of the house, and we had, 4 bedrooms and 3 bath house. And then before that, I had one with 5 bedrooms and 4 baths that I purchased. We have, in the 5 years, I can tell you now because I've been keeping track of the money, we have averaged about $1,600 US per month, all inclusive. And that covers, all in: food, housing, insurance, transportation, all in. And that's over the course of 5 years, that's what we've spent.
Yeah. What are you living in now?
I'm living in a conjunto cerrado, which is like a gated community, and it's a rental house, and it's fully furnished, and it's 3 bedroom, 2 bath with a nice yard in the mountains, and we pay 1.8 million pesos a month, which is at the current exchange rate, about $450 maybe. and that doesn't include anything in terms of utilities, but it does include, since it's in a conjunto, since it's in a gated community, that includes all of the yard care and maintaining the grounds and all of that. But our water bill tends to be about $4 a month. The electricity bill is higher than most people here because we have a lot of I got computers and stuff like that I run. It's about $75 a month, maybe a little less, 60 to 75, depending on the month. Um, and and that's kind of it for utilities. I mean, we own a car, so I bought a car.
Yeah.
So we have to pay for insurance and all of that on the car, but yeah, about 450 if you include utilities, 550 maybe on a bad month, 600 a month.
That's
Um,
incredible. That is
and
absolutely so a 3 bedroom, 2 bath and a gated, but you
mhm,
didn't live in gated communities. You lived open air finca type stuff and you were living in these large houses that
yeah,
were even bigger than what you're in now.
yeah,
And share
and
with the viewers how much you were paying per month for those larger places.
yeah, we had one that was a large finca with a huge view, and that was only about $50 a month more than we're paying here.
It's like
And
500 a month. And how
yeah,
many square footage would you say that place was? Because I remember seeing the
oh
pictures. It's gorgeous.
yeah, at least 2,200, 2,400 square feet.
Yeah.
Um, and that finca was lovely. I mean, we lived there. It was open air. The
Yeah.
living room and the dining room didn't there were no walls. I mean, there were no windows or doors to close because it was just open. It was like
Yeah.
covered porch, and that was the living room and dining room, and it was just amazing. The kitchen was a big commercial kitchen that was oh goodness. In terms of feet, probably 15 by 20 feet,
Yeah.
just the kitchen alone.
Hmm.
Outstanding place, and beautiful views. But it's in the country, right? So you don't have the advantage of having the conjunto, the gated community services. But it was lovely, and it's not expensive. Housing
Yeah.
is very affordable here, and food. I mean, we can go to the food is amazing. It's all of the fruits and vegetables are local. There are a few imported ones, like apples come from Peru or Chile, but most of the fruit here is all grown here. I mean, it's all grown within, a Jeep ride or a horse-drawn carriage from the markets. You go to the markets, and it's really kind of fun. You go there, and they're experts at it, right? Okay, I need four avocados, and I need two to be ready to eat tomorrow, and two on Monday. And they'll go and they'll pick them out, and they'll say, "Oh, these are the ones you want," and they're absolutely right on all the time. And they're, you can buy four large avocados for like $2. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing. And that's the same with all of the fruits and vegetables, and everything is so good, so flavorful, so rich. They don't do genetically modified stuff here, so the food is excellent. The quality is excellent. They don't use a lot of pesticides or herbicides because you can't afford it, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's just everything is very clean.
Yeah.
Everything is very clean and flavorful.
Yeah. Well, you've shared a lot of pictures with me over the course of the last 3 years and
Mhm.
videos. It's stunningly beautiful out there.
It is.
Now, you're in the middle of this coffee region, which is famous.
Yeah.
Colombia is known for coffee. I've
Mhm.
never been out there. Do they have like coffee vineyards where people can go like on tours and go sip coffee at
Absolutely.
places? They do?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
they
the
do.
finca I lived in,
Okay.
there was one about a quarter of a mile away. Yes, absolutely. So you go there and you can have the whole experience. They'll give you the tour of the vineyards. When I went to the tour of the one that we lived near, they would say, "Okay, well, here's where we start the little seedlings, and here's where we they grow them up a little bit, and here's where we plant them, and then in the whole life cycle of the coffee plant, and how they everything is done by hand here, right? Because
Hmm.
the slopes are like 100% grade, right? So
Yeah.
equipment is not possible. So everything is done by hand. The coffee berries are picked by hand, and then they run them through a little hand cranked machine that does depulping, and then the tour, they will show you where they do the depulping and where they do the drying and the roasting, and then they'll take you back to the main house of the finca or the plantation, and they'll give you a traditional um, uh, Colombian meal with, of course, their coffee that's for sale, right? So you can
Yeah.
buy their coffee, which is usually really good. Yeah, absolutely. That's very common. There are a lot of fincas that do that.
Do they have any of these places where you can go and get like a pastry and have a beautiful cup of coffee in the morning? Anything like that? Or can you go to these places?
Not the fincas exactly, but every little town or every town of any size, little towns, big towns, whatever, there are places you can go where they have the local pastries, the pan de bonos or the pan de queso or the buñuelos or all of these little pastries and baked goods that are just wonderful. And of course, the coffee here is all pretty good. Even
Mhm.
the lesser quality coffee is still pretty stellar in terms of the quality.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And
Um,
you can go to one of these cafes and order a café con leche, which is a coffee café au lait, like a coffee with
yeah,
milk,
yeah,
and it's like 50 cents, right?
yeah.
And a buñuelo is another 50 cents. So you might spend $1 on a buñuelo and a really nice coffee. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
what a
nice.
what an amazing experience you guys have had in the last 5 years to be out there in that place. And again, and the affordability is incredible. What do you pay for like a going out to eat? I mean, to get like a sopa de pollo or arroz con pollo or something that's Colombian typical food.
Yeah, a very typical, fairly large, typical dish here is called bandeja paisa, it translates into a country platter, but
Hmm.
we usually order a mini because a full bandeja paisa is too much for even for my spouse and I to share. It's just enormous, but it includes chicharron, which is like a really thick bacon, sausage, steak, eggs, rice, beans, arepa, everything all in one big plate. And that'll run $4, $5. If you're at a highbrow place, it might be $6.
And that
Um,
feeds both of you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there are nicer restaurants. You can spend more, of course. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
you can go somewhere and spend a lot of money, and that usually includes a local juice that they squeeze from the local fruits. And yeah, for $5, $6. I mean, if you really want to splurge, you can spend $10 on the two of you. I
Yeah.
mean, it's really pretty amazing.
Now, Randy, do they have any vineyards out there?
No, I have not seen any vineyard, not in this part of the world.
That's
Um,
surprising to me because with the roaming hills and that type of a climate, you
yeah.
would think that they would attempt to grow some wine out there. It seems like the ideal climate. I don't know, but I could be wrong.
Well, well, as they say, since I used to own a vineyard myself, as they say, uh, to make a great wine, the vine has to struggle, and the really good wines come from areas where the ground is pretty dry, kind of
Okay.
sandy, rocky, dry, and they have to kind of struggle. Where here, the ground is so rich, and I
Yeah.
mean, we'll get, in terms of rain, it's not uncommon for us to get, an inch and a half of rain a night, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And there are some places in wine country that they might get 2 or 3 inches a month, right?
Okay.
And we'll get that every night for weeks on end.
Uh,
So lots of water. Grapes don't like to have wet feet, as they say. Another
Interesting.
cliche of
Oh,
vintners.
great information. All right, so Randy, we discovered this country, and everything you shared makes me want to move there now. It
God, it's a
sounds
beautiful
it
place.
sounds amazing, but there
Yeah,
have been some changes. There
there
have
have
been
been some
things that have,
changes.
and here's my thing. So, you know, you move there and you live in one of the most beautiful parts of, I'd say, the world. I mean, once you look at imagery of the coffee triangle in Colombia, it's
Mhm.
stunning. It's
It
like
is.
the Tuscany of South America with coffee.
And
It's
when you're
just,
here, it's even more stunning than the pictures can possibly tell you.
yes, yeah,
It's
exactly.
beautiful.
And that's what
Yeah.
I've all, yeah, exactly. So it's just beautiful. And then the affordability is incredible to be able to rent, a 4 bedroom, 2 bath home out there for 450, 500, $550 is just
Mm-hmm.
unheard of. To
Yeah.
have that kind of space and to have that kind of land. It looked like too, like one of those houses, you had like a few acres.
Yeah. The
Um,
finca had several acres. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so
And it was on
just
this promontory, which had, hills in every direction. And we'd have coffee over there and we'd have pineapples growing over there and plátanos behind us. I mean, it was stunningly beautiful.
so you have and then on top of it, when you go out and you have great typical Colombian food, which I could eat every night,
Uh-huh.
with
Oh, it's really
chicken and
good.
rice and plantains and salad and stuff like that. And you can find that for 3, 4, $5 for a meal, $6 for a meal.
Right.
I mean, people don't have to worry about financial stress any longer going there. And then the other big thing that we haven't really touched on, Colombia is known to have excellent health care. And I'm
It
sure
does.
with your research mind, you looked into that before going.
Yes.
And you've been on their what is it, a national type
EPS. Yeah.
healthcare,
It's a
EPS.
national, it's called EPS. Yeah. I forget
So
what it translates to, but
when you first moved there, you had
Mhm.
complete comprehensive coverage for you and your wife. Share what you were paying per month for
Oh,
this
yeah. Well,
excellent health care.
even now, after it has gone up for 5 years every year, we're still paying about $50 a month for both of us combined.
That's
So,
just amazing.
and that covers everything. And our copays tend to be somewhere around dollar 50, $2, right? The biggest copay we had was which was for a very specialty procedure, I think was $10. And that was only once in the 5 years we were here.
Yeah.
So so the healthcare, there are stories about healthcare being wait times are kind of long, especially for if you're going to a specialist. But that's true, and that's true. That is true. There have been times certain specialties you have a hard time getting in, and it takes a while.
Yeah.
Um, However, it's not impossible, and if it's something that is urgent, if you have a bona fide urgency or emergency, you have access to other more available resources, right? Immediate
Yes.
resources.
Sure.
So it's not like you can't get the care you need when you need it. It just sometimes you have to wait for the specialists.
Yeah.
Things like the otorrinolaryngologos, which is the ear, nose, and throat people. Those take a while to get into.
Mhm.
Dermatology takes a while to get into. But, however, the quality of the care here is amazingly good.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. I have my whole family has this genetic condition that causes problems with my eyes. I have optic nerve atrophy, and it's genetic. And all of my brothers and sisters have it, which means my vision is slowly going away. And I had been seeing neuro-ophthalmologists for my entire adult life in the U.S. And every time they said, "Yeah, your vision's terrible." I mean, they didn't use these words, but basically, your vision's bad. It's getting worse. It's worse than last time. We don't know why. We don't know how to fix it. See you in a year. And that's really the only story I've ever gotten. Well, here, after I was here for about a year, I went to a neuro-ophthalmologist and I told him my condition or my history. And I told him that nobody's been able to name it or find out why. And he said, I think we can do more. So he sent me to a geneticist, and they did a blood test and they did a genomic sequence on me. And they said, oh, well, you have OPA1 genetic mutation causing autosomal dominant optic atrophy. We know exactly what you have. I had to come to Colombia to have the proper care to be able to name what it is I have. Now, there's still no treatment available for it, but now I know what to look for. And I know
Yeah.
that there are tests going on in Australia and in Europe and in a couple of other countries that for treating this, the problem is this condition is very rare. So there are not a lot of people, right? So there's sadly there's not a lot of money in curing it because there's not a lot of people who have it, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the reality of healthcare. But that's just an example of how the healthcare system here really took the time and had the skills and the knowledge to dig into my particular situation much more so than anyone in the US did for my entire life.
Yeah, that's such a great story to tell because it just it kind of puts things into perspective about how rushed we are here in the US,
Yeah.
how it's become so what's the word? Just not we're not really that interested in you, and we just need to get you in, get you out,
Kind
and
of superficial. Yeah.
it's a superficial kind of experience in the U.S. And then you go to a place like Colombia, and they take the time and they actually will explore, go a little bit deeper, do some
Mm-hmm.
testing that resulted in naming something.
By the
But
way, my copay on that whole thing was $10.
yeah, so
So
everything
yeah,
it's sad that we live in a society where, the cost of healthcare is so expensive and they won't even do the right testing because the majority of people's insurance isn't going to cover it. So no,
right,
we can't do it. We're
exactly.
not going to do it, and you don't have the money to pay out of pocket. So you just got to figure out how to live with it without it
Yeah.
being named or anything else. It's a great, but also there's a lot of people that do talk about how excellent the healthcare is in Colombia, where people um, go there for medical tourism because it's so
It's
good
true.
and it's so affordable. So people from all over Latin America will go to Colombia to get the care that they need because it's that good.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's true. That is, and that sort of feeds into the next thing we're going to talk about is what has changed.
Yes.
Because if you do have to pay out of pocket for healthcare here and you don't have insurance and you don't have the local Columbia healthcare and you pay out of pocket, it's still pretty affordable.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I'll give you an example that I'm in the process of right now. I had an injury to both of my shoulders 10 years ago, long before I came to Colombia when I was RVing. And it's bothered me ever since. And I had an injection of corticosteroids, and it was fine for a long time until about a year ago. So I'm here in Colombia now, and I got they sent me in for the MRIs and the X-ray and the ultrasound and all that stuff, and they suggested a treatment which is plasma rich in platelets, where they draw your blood, they spin it down, separate the plasma and platelets, create a solution with that and some medication and some ozone gas, and they inject it into my shoulder joints. Okay. So they wanted to do this, and they said the results are often outstanding, and you'll get a lot more years out of it than you will just corticosteroids.
Yeah.
It's a very holistic solution. Okay. So I'm trying to get through this. And again, this is one of those specialists where there was some delays. So I thought, well, my shoulders are really killing me. I'm just going to pay for it out of pocket. So I'm in the US, it's not covered by insurance by anybody. And it tends to be $2,000 to $3,000 per session for one injection. Okay. So if I was doing two, that would be $4,000 to $6,000 per session, and you usually need 4 sessions. Okay, completely out of range.
Yeah.
I went to the doctor here that does this, and I'm doing the whole series of 4 injections in both shoulders, and it's going to cost me $800
That's
without
amazing.
insurance. That's no insurance. That's me paying for all of the procedures myself. So,
Yeah.
so the healthcare, even if you do have to pay for it yourself, it's really pretty approachable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. All right. So now we've talked about everything that's absolutely incredible about
Yeah.
Colombia. Now let's talk about what's changed for the viewers thinking of moving there, really considering Colombia is one of the top countries they're considering to live or retire. And what has changed? What do they need to be aware of, Randy?
Good questions. All there have been some pretty significant changes lately that will affect expats. Um, Most of the visas are based on some multiple of the minimum wage, in the Colombian minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years ago, I think they raised the minimum wage 10%. And now this year, starting in January, they raised it another 23%.
Okay.
So what that does, aside from the fact that there's some really questionable logic behind raising the minimum wage that much, because you basically price people, the locals, the Colombians, you price them out of work. A lot of people lose their jobs because employers can't afford that big of an increase. But all of that aside, how it affects expats is that now, if you are going to do, for example, an investor visa, you have to make an investment of a minimum of 350 times the minimum wage. So when the minimum wage goes up 23%, well, now your minimum investment goes up 23%.
Okay.
And it's not, you can say, well, I'll just invest now before it goes up again. It doesn't work that way, because they will only give you a visa for 1 year. Maybe after you've had a couple of 1-year visas, they might do a 2-year or 3-year. But every time you renew your visa, they apply whatever the new minimum salary is times 350 to see if you have a qualifying investment.
Mm-hmm.
So you could make an investment that's easily qualifying today, and in 2 years, it's not enough, and they'll deny you. And that actually happened to me. I bought a house in 2021 to qualify for an investor visa. It was more than enough. I got a renewal once. Initially, we got it. We renewed it once, no problem. The second time we went to renew it, they said, no, it's not enough. And they denied us. So I said, okay, well, how about if I make another investment? I still have a little money in the bank. I'll go buy a lot, or I'll buy a smaller house and rent it out or whatever. No, you can't do that, because once you buy a house, once you own real estate, you are considered a tax resident, and only foreign direct investments from non-tax residents qualify. So too bad. Yeah. So sad.
Randy, let's break this down slowly and carefully for the viewers that are watching, so that they can clearly understand. So you initially dove into an investor visa. The investor visa says that you can purchase a property.
Yes.
But it has to be 300 and whatever percent.
350 times
the minimum wage.
Minimum monthly salary.
At the time you purchased, what was that for? What was the price of a house that you needed to invest in?
In US dollars, it was about $88,000.
Okay, so let's say 90,000 you needed to make an investment in.
Right.
So now you're saying that the government is increasing this minimum wage, which increases the threshold of the investor visa. Even after you purchase this house, is it true that every year you have to reapply for the visa?
Well, it depends on how long a visa they're willing to give you. It is unheard of to get more than 1 year at a time for the first 1-2 visas. So when you first come here and you first apply for your first visa, you will almost always get no more than 1 year. So you have to renew, you have to reapply again a year later.
Okay.
Frequently, the second time tends to be 1 year. I've heard of some people who have gotten a 2-year or 3-year visa after their first 1 year, but it's very frequent. It's very frequent to get 1 year visa and then renew it and get a 1 year visa. You can't ask for 2 or 3 or anything. You just apply and they give you what they want to give you.
Okay, so the investor visa changed. You purchased, you made the investment, you qualified for the investor visa. Then tell folks what happened when you went to reapply.
Okay, so I had that for 1 year. The next year I applied, and we were still just within the 350 times minimum wage. However, there's a difference in the application of the laws here, which also sort of has a nod to the local corruption and subjectivity of the application of laws. Prior to when I made my investment, all of the investor visas were always grandfathered in. So if you make an investment and you qualify for the visa, they wouldn't apply the future minimum wages to your renewal requests. They would say,
Right.
okay, well, you already have an investor visa. So you qualified in, say, 2021. And if I'm reapplying in 2023, they'll say, well, you qualified in 2021. Well, that's fine. You
You're good to
qualify,
go.
but not anymore. They don't do that anymore. Starting in 2022, because there were some changes in the laws, and I can point you to the specific laws that if your viewers would like to read them, that they now apply whatever the current minimum wage is when you apply for a renewal times 350 to see if your original investment still qualifies. That was a new interpretation of the laws.
Okay.
So what happened to me is I bought a house for I think it was 94,000 or something like that. With exchange rates, it's kind of fluid. And for the first year, I got it, and then I renewed it once. I was fine, but then in 2023, I applied for a renewal on the investor visa, and in 2023, the minimum wage had gone up 10%. And my investment now was no longer 350 times the new minimum wage. So they denied me.
So how much was it then? From 94,000, it went up to what?
110 or 120,000,
So
something like that.
you qualified by purchasing a property in
Yep.
Colombia for 94,000, and then the minimum wage increased. And then they said, no, you don't qualify for the investor visa. We're not going to renew your visa.
Correct. Denied. Yeah.
And that's what's happening to some folks in
A
Colombia.
lot of people. That's happening to a lot of people. Now, fast forward that to this year. This year, they raised the minimum wage 23%. So now anyone who renews their investor visa after this year, starting this year, they're going to have at least 23% more as an original investment in order to get approved to be allowed to stay.
So are you saying, Randy, that you have to actually forecast these projections if you want to stay there for 5 years on an investor visa, so that you buy something at 200,000 as opposed to 94,000, so you're safe every year it goes up? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. You have to predict the future, make a guess as to what the future minimum wage increases are going to be, which is entirely political, as you know.
Yeah.
And your investment has to be at least 350 times whatever you think the minimum wage will be in the number of years in the future that you intend to stay. Okay?
So this is risky now, because I can see a lot of people going, they're spending 100,000, they qualify for the investor visa. Then all of a sudden that the minimum wage goes up, and all of a sudden they're being denied a renewal. So now they can't even stay in Colombia. They have to leave, and they got a house there. And now they got to try to figure out how to sell a house even when they're not there, because they didn't qualify for a visa. This really can become complicated.
It can. And as I mentioned, I talked to the attorneys, and they talked to MRE, Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores, which is the group that does the visas. And you cannot add an additional investment to make up the shortfall. Because once you're a real estate owner, you're a tax resident, and future investments are not foreign direct investments, so they don't qualify for the visa. So you can't even invest more in order to stay and to keep your house. You're screwed. I mean, if you don't have the option of getting a different type of visa, you sell the house and leave, or I don't know, something
You would think
else.
that they would allow you to, and put some money into a CD as an investment, so that you can still qualify for that investor visa. You're still investing in it, because you can't do anything with your house. It's only worth so much.
Right.
So then you would think that they would create some kind of plan which would allow you to, like you say, okay, if it went up 23%, now you got to add 23% of an investment just to keep to renew that particular visa
and to stay in your house.
Stay in your house.
Yeah,
they're not even doing that. Okay, so investor visas do not sound like the way to go any longer in Colombia.
Correct. If you're going to do an investor visa, I ran some numbers once. If you're going to do an investor visa, you should probably take the current 350 times the current minimum wage, and multiply it by about 180%. So almost double. So it just to have enough of a buffer to accommodate current or future minimum wage increases.
Yeah, that's really a weird law that they have, that you would think that somebody qualifies for the investor visa, they invest in the country by purchasing property, and yet they don't renew it. It's really strange.
Yeah. And that happened to me. I mean, this is not hearsay. This is what actually happened to me. Fortunately, I had been able to start after I was denied. I had been able to start my Social Security earlier than I had hoped to, but so I got my pension and I was able to qualify for a retirement visa, pensionado.
Yes.
So I was able to stay, and this was in 2023. So I started my pension. I applied for that, and then they approved it. But there's another game that they play here that is. You remember we talked earlier about the fact that the corruption is just beneath the surface. It's sort of almost palpable. Well, they play games especially with retirees. In order to qualify for residency. Okay, so there's a lot here, and I don't need to go too crazy with it. But in order to qualify for residency, you have to hold the same type of visa, Type M pensionado or Type M inversionista, whatever, the same type of visa for 5 years continuously in order to qualify for a Type R or residency visa. And then once you get a residency visa, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. And when we talk about pensionado, I'll tell you more about that, because there's a very big difference between a resident and migrante. Every time, without exception, every time that we've renewed our visas, my spouse and I, they have. This is my interpretation, right? I can't swear to this, but they have cooked up some excuse to delay the approval of my visa. A day, 2 days, a week, to cause an interruption in my visa, which effectively resets my time to residency back to 0 days. Because you have to have it 5 years continuously.
Okay.
So if there's any interruption for any reason, even if it's not our fault, that resets your time to residency back to 0. Every single time we have renewed our visa, they have come up with some reason to delay it for a few days and reset us back to 0. So every time we're back to 5 years, maybe if we can hold it for 5 years, and they'll never give you a 5-year visa. They'll give you some that you have to renew in that 5-year period to constantly move the carrot further away, so you'll never get residency.
What are your thoughts behind that? Why are they doing it?
Well, I think my opinion, and this is more related to pensionado, is that retirees, because of the healthcare system here being so good and so affordable, I think there's been a pretty major influx of retirees from a lot of countries, US, Canada, whatever, a lot of countries, richer countries, that they can't afford their healthcare, and they come here because they want to get a visa and they want to get the state-run healthcare, and they want to get their healthcare for next to nothing, which is, $50 a month is effectively next to nothing, right? So I think there's been a huge influx, and the state-run healthcare system already has been in some financial trouble.
Okay.
Not necessarily because of an influx of people, but because there's a lot of corruption. There's been a lot of stories about allegations of people in the upper management levels skimming off funds and all that stuff, right? So I think what they're trying to do is curtail the number of people who are going to come in and enroll in their healthcare system and be a big drain on their system, because retirees are older folks, probably have some medical problems, probably want the healthcare, and they're going to come here for their diabetes or their cancer or their, whatever, pick something expensive. And And I think they're trying to curtail that.
Yeah.
And let's talk real briefly about the other change in the law relative to pensionado. And this is in, just for reference, in case anyone wants to look it up, it's in Decree 5477, dated 22nd of July 2022, which was a change that they specifically called out new pensionado visa holders, type M pensionado, which is basically anyone coming in here as a retiree with a new visa request is in that category. They are absolutely prohibited from participating in the state-run healthcare. You're not allowed anymore. That time has ended. So retirees who want to come here, get a pensionado visa, retiree visa, and get in the healthcare system, not allowed. You have to buy. You not only are not allowed to participate for the first 5 years. Well, no, that's not true. Until you're a resident, which again, then they do those games of pushing out your residency for, 3, 4, 5, 10 years far further. So you can never use the healthcare system. Not only are you not allowed to be in the healthcare system anymore as a new retiree, you are required to buy a private health insurance policy in order to be approved for your visa. And you have to pay for it in full in advance for at least a full year before you apply for it.
Okay. Are you grandfathered in because you were paying $50 a month for a comprehensive program on that, in that system, because you've been there. Are you grandfathered in for that?
Until my next renewal.
Until your next renewal.
In which case I will have to disaffiliate entirely, myself and my spouse, from the state-run healthcare at least 90 days before my application, and I have to buy a private healthcare policy.
Okay. So that's a big change as well.
Yeah, that's a huge change, because there are basically two types of private healthcare policies you can get here. You can get a travel policy, which is like the Continental Assist card or Safety Wing or some of those. And those are basically catastrophic policies. They'll cover emergencies, urgent situations, but they don't cover anything routine. So if you want to get a policy like that, it'll cost you about $1,500 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll only cover emergencies. So doctor visits, medications, treatments, x-rays, stuff like that. None of that is covered. So you basically are agreeing to pay everything out of pocket, which I think is what they want, right? Or you can buy a comprehensive policy, or Póliza Integral, as they call them here. And I got quotes for myself and my spouse. We're 63, 64 years old at the moment. And from Sura and Sanitas, which are two big insurers here, they quoted us 30 million pesos a year. That's for both of us, right? So, but still, that's like $8,000, right? A little more than $8,000 right now. Mm-hmm. And compared to $50 a month, right?
Now so you went from 600 a month, or 600 a year, to 8,000 a year.
Over 8,000 a year. Yeah, that's right. So, and remember, the law changes from 2022 very specifically single out new retirees.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't affect investor visa. They can still do this, right? If you want to do the investment, but we talked about the issues with investors. Worker visa, if you can get a work permit, estudiante visas for students, none of those are affected. It's just the new retirees.
It's ageism.
It is.
It exists everywhere.
It is.
Like so we get the shaft as we get older. Randy. What's going on here?
We certainly do. So basically, even though the people here are lovely, the food is fabulous, the affordability is excellent, right? There's so many good things here, but it is becoming increasingly difficult to work within the system to be able to have decent healthcare and to be able to qualify for these visas and the renewals.
Yeah.
The inversionista, because they keep raising the bar on the minimum wage, and they don't grandfather you in, right? And then now the pensionados, because now you have to pay for private insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So basically what it comes down to is we have decided, because of all of the games that have been going on, because of the changes in the interpretation of the laws, because of the death of 1,000 cuts of always trying to jump through hoops that we didn't even know existed, It seems evident to us that they really don't want retirees here. And it's not just Americans; it's any from any country, anyone who wants to come here and retire.
Mm-hmm.
Because these laws, these laws were made 4 years ago now. We're leaving. We're done. As much as we love Colombia and we love the people and we love the naturaleza, we have decided that we're going to relocate to France. So we're moving to France in April. And now there's no
Wow.
panacea. There's no panacea. Every country has its
Parlez-vous
issues.
français?
Oui, je parle langue française, absolument. J'ai
Wow.
habité en France pour étudier langue française.
You're so brilliant,
Yep.
Randy. So you're speaking fluent Spanish, you speak fluent French, and now you're wow. So that and I know how much you love Colombia because you and I have done a lot of podcasts.
Yeah,
We've had a lot of discussions. So that's got to
Colombia
be
is amazing.
wow. So that's got to be a hard move, but yet moving to France is pretty exciting.
It's pretty exciting. Now, France has its own problems, and if you want, we can do some podcasts from France
Oh, we
after I
will when you
move.
get there for sure.
Okay, so France has its own issues. There's no question, and we've had to jump through a lot of hoops. But I'll tell you, it's interesting because here, and this is a testimony to what things are like here politically. Here, you put in your application for a visa and you give them all they want, and you wait sometimes months, and sometimes they'll say, yeah, it's approved. Sometimes they'll say, well, no, we don't want to do that. And it's very subjective, right? And in France, although it's not 100% like this, it's very objective. You have criteria, A, B, C, D. You meet all four, you're approved, right? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. When we applied for our VLSTS visa at the French consulate in Bogota here in Colombia, we gave them all of the information. We had a little interview. We had a discussion. They approved it the next day. It was very clear.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that grease the palm kind of attitude here that still exists. It's not
Yeah.
quite as blatant as it might have been in the past, but it's still very much just below the surface.
Yeah. So when do you plan on embarking on your new journey?
April 27th. Yeah. So we
Okay.
already have flights and vans, and when you're moving with people and with four animals, it's just there's a lot of logistics, right? So we already have our flights, we already have our visa, we already have our initial insurance, health insurance for France. We have the crates for the dogs and the cat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's right around the corner.
yeah.
So
Because
I bet
because our visa is due. I mean, we have to renew our visa later this year, and I have every reason to believe that they won't renew it unless we jump through all these hoops and cancel our Colombian healthcare and go buy a private policy and all of the other stuff that they've added. I have absolute confidence that they will make it very difficult for us.
are,
And I'm just tired of playing the game.
yeah, yeah. So how are you with all the things that you've accumulated over the years? Are you basically just shipping that to France?
No, absolutely not.
No.
No, we can talk about this as another topic if you want, but basically, in a nutshell, um, we I bought the house furnished. I sold it furnished. We rented houses furnished, right? So
Okay.
we have a few things. We have a washer dryer. We have a car. We have a few, the desk I'm sitting at, a few things that we bought here, but very few. I don't know if you can see. No, probably not. You can't see behind me. We have travel trunks. We're going to cook everything we own down to 4 travel trunks and 4 dog crates and a couple of suitcases.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
that's all we're going to France with. And
Yeah.
we found a place to rent in France that's furnished, right? So
Yeah.
that's sort of the same pattern. We don't want to have a large moving operation. We want to keep it kind of lean and flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's been an absolute honor to do all of these podcasts and to receive all of this and terrific information on you living in Colombia.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been truly an honor, Randy, but I look forward to our next podcast when you get settled in to France so that we could hear your perspective on that. So It's you know, the end of one chapter, a beginning of a new, and it's still gonna be fun, man.
It's still going to be fun. And just to put a just a little bit of a cap on that. In 2020, when I decided to retire, we had originally booked a place to live in Provence, in France. But because of COVID and all of the restrictions, the borders were all closed. We ended up coming here instead. And it's been a fabulous experience. It's been wonderful. But it's time to turn the page.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Well,
and we'll be living in the south of France. We'll be close to Spain and close to the Mediterranean, and should be a nice climate.
yeah. Well, I look forward to doing a podcast on that. So don't share the name of the town or anything because we'll that'll be the surprise when we do the
Okay. Well, sometimes I don't want to share the name anyway because if it's too popular, then people come in and ruin it. Right.
right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All
Yeah.
right. Is there anything else, Randy, that um
I
you
I
could
can't
think of?
think I can't think of anything right now. It's been a kind of a roller coaster. And I guess the only thing I would say is we really wanted to stay. When we came here, we really had hoped to make this our permanent home and retire here permanently. I mean, I was hoping to get residency and eventually maybe passport and citizenship.
Yes.
They're just throwing tax in the road for us all the time. And
Yeah.
and so if somebody has a lot of money, like if you've got, a 500,000 or more lying around that you don't know what to do with, you can come here and make it work. Or if you
Yeah.
have a big income, you can come here and make it work. But it'll be expensive. It won't be the affordable place because of healthcare and because of the changes they're making. It won't have the affordability that it has had in the past.
Yeah. All right. Well, Randy Lagman, thank you so much for taking the time to share all this information today, man. I truly appreciate it as always.
A
And
pleasure
it's
as
great to
always.
see you, buddy.
Always a pleasure. And yeah, I look forward to having our next chat from France.